Carl sort of claimed or suggests that Anthony Joshua is finished. Let's have a listen to the conversation between Froch on fighting, or more to the point, what Carl said on Froch on fighting, what Eddie Hearn's response was.
I personally feel that Anthony Joshua is finished, he's done. He's had a fantastic career in terms of the old bunts. He was great for boxing back then. His legacy, he'll be remembered for bringing boxing straight into the forefront and bringing boxing back to mainstream stadium fights. Obviously, he followed me fighting in the stadiums. I set it up, and then he took the lead with that. Him and Eddie Hearn and Sky Sports and that 5-year deal, he became a massive star. But he's had his career, he's made his money, and he's got found out. As soon as he stepped up in class, and before he even stepped up in class, he got flattened, didn't he? He got flattened by Andy Ruiz. But then he stepped up against Usyk, got outclassed twice, badly beaten up and done, and then he's been ironed out, finished, El Sparko against Dubois. So that, for me, is all she wrote. That should be the end of AJ's career. I've no interest in it. Don't want to see him fight again. But you tell me if you want to see him again in against anybody other than Tyson Fury.
I said in an interview recently that 2026 could be his last year in the sport, and some people were quite surprised by that. I mean, but how much more do you want? You know, I mean, that's another 3 fights or so. Anything could happen. Yeah. And just gearing up for a big run. He's motivated, he's excited. And, you know, look, people are fickle. Before the Dubois fight, he was on an incredible run. He was back to his best. He was the most dangerous heavyweight on the planet. And then, you know, he got chinned by what may be the undisputed champion coming up. And all of a sudden he's done, he should retire. And, you know, it's just the way, really. So he's just motivated to come back. And, you know, I'm looking forward to his return. We need him in the game.
See, a lot of what Carl says, maybe not the style of it, but a lot of what he says I agree with. Do you think that what he's saying is disrespectful, Spence?
Listen, Cole, look...
They are statements of fact, aren't they?
Yeah, but Cole says what he says what he believes in, and that's what he does. You know, Froch on fighting's doing very well. People like his approach, not going round the houses about how he's delivering it. But look, he's entitled to his opinion, you know. He didn't say anything that was wrong or out of order. It's what he believes, and fair play to him if that's what he believes. I believe if Anthony Joshua is to box again, which he is, there is 2 big fights out there for him still. That is a fact, and that is Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. So why not? You know, he still wants to fight. He still says he's got a lot left in the tank, and we will find that out.
I mean, what's your view of Anthony Joshua? Does he have 3 fights left in the tank? Should he be going back in the ring, you know, and potentially putting himself in a way of another loss that actually hurts his legacy, in your view?
I mean, I will never, ever turn around and say he should or he shouldn't be going in the ring. I think that's the decision that comes down to him. Solely down to him. The team will have a little bit of input.
If you were in that position, Frazer, and you'd gone through all, you'd still fight.
Yeah, I'd still fight 100%.
Why? Don't need the money.
Because it's in your time, and I think a lot of people will know this. And self-pride. Sometimes you need to be safe from yourself, but you know, if it's in you and you still think you can deliver, and he obviously does think that, that's why he's still doing it. Then why wouldn't he?
Is it of any interest to anybody for Anthony to get into the ring with anybody else besides Fury or Dubois?
We're at that stage of his career now, and I'll tell you from Anthony's side that he, you know, it's not about... He loves the sport of boxing. He still feels that he's got...
But you'd have him with Wilder, wouldn't you?
No, but I want him in with Wilder and I want him in with Fury. They're the 2 fights that I think that they should be the defining fights. No, I just think that he needs Wilder, Fury. Then it's that modern era, everyone boxing everyone. That's what he wanted to achieve himself. No, he doesn't need to box Daniel Dubois again now. I think they're the 2 fights for him at this stage of his career. All right, if you're talking about redemption, obviously he has to go back in with Dubois.
What do you think to that? Because I think he does. I think if he wants redemption, he has to fight Daniel Dubois.
He has to get back in with Daniel Spence, just because... knowing him as a person as well, you want to right that wrong. So as much as you say he doesn't need to, he will want to. And in all fairness, it's all right boxing people saying they don't think he should be in. But remember, Anthony Joshua is not just for the boxing people, the casuals, just the sports fan. He could sell stadiums out just by selling to them alone. So I don't think it comes down to the boxing people. We're all going to have an opinion. The masses in Britain love the man. Simple as that. Like, everyone loves him. So they're going to come out for him. And I can understand Carl saying his opinion because he's been at an elite level. Well, he's not trying to sell the fight to Carl Froch. People are trying to sell the fight to the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people that love him.
Do you believe that he should go in with Dubois before the Fury and Wilder fight, or do you think it should be that way around, where you go Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, and then try redemption against Dubois, depending on how those fights go?
I think what Simon said about the time out of the ring now, you know, time out of the ring to jump in against Dubois, it's going to be a hard ask. To jump in with any of them guys after 12, 15 months out of the ring is a really, really hard ask. But I think at this stage of his career, I don't think there's going to be too many warm-up fights. I think he might have to just bite the bullet, have some really good training camps, some really good sparring, and get in with whoever's there.
Because it's a fascinating thing, and you've experienced it, and I don't want to dwell too much on the knockout with Fabio and the rebuilding of the confidence and the mentality. But Anthony Joshua walks into a auditorium of 96,000 people, of at least 90,000 of them were expecting him to win and were there to anoint him. So it's a psychological reaction to that is a significant thing. And that's why I think he has to go in with someone like a Dubois, if he's going to fight again, to be able to either vanquish those demons or say, I've made the money. He's made hundreds of millions of pounds, right? And to go out the way that he is currently being remembered, the people's memory of Anthony Joshua at this moment in time, because we're all guilty of it, which is near-term memory, is laying flat on his back in front of 90,000 fans in Wembley Stadium. And I would imagine someone like Anthony Joshua would want the opportunity to correct that image and at least present a different one and maybe leave his career on the highest of highs rather than fiddling about with Deontay Wilders of the world that are busted flushes now.
Yeah, but do you agree with Carl
respect
that
to
he's
them.
actually finished at this stage of his career, Joshua? Would you like to see him finish now?
Yes. If I were his friend. If I were making money from him, like Barry Hearn's son, then probably not.
See,
because I know there's an opportunity in there.
See, I'm his friend, and that's why I'm saying I wouldn't chase the Dubois redemption fight. I would say finish your career, your legacy with Fury or Wilder, because they're the fights that should have happened years ago. I get that, and they are past their sell-by date in many ways. But I think it's all about career-defining fights, and I think that them two still at this stage, because they're all pretty much at the same sort of stage of their careers, and that's what I'd like to see.
Let's see. Let's move it on to someone at the other end of their career, which is now Moses Itauma, who's about to headline his first card against Dillian Whyte. And interestingly enough, we had Master Chisora talking last week and his views on that. Let's have a listen to what he had to say. Derek.
I had a phone call a couple of weeks ago. They offered me to fight Moses Itauma in Saudi. You know, I said, how much? He said, 2 million. I said, nah, I'm out. I even phoned Dillian. I was like, Dillian, I don't know why you're taking this fight, you know, because this kid is on fire right now. And he's getting better and better. It's not like he's going backwards, he's going forward.
One of the reasons he is taking it is that Moses is WBO #1 at the moment, so that there's some kind of light at the end of the tunnel for Dillian taking that fight.
Ain't no light at the end of that tunnel.
I agree with you. I think I don't think Dillian gets beyond 4 or 5 rounds.
You're crazy. Yeah. There's no light at that tunnel. That kid is, no, you mad. No way. Even Lawrence Okoli said Moses is bad.
That's not a light at the end of a tunnel. That's a train coming down here, right? Do you agree with a lot of what Derek says about Moses there?
Yeah, you know, he's the in-form, dangerous, hungry, young heavyweight. I know there was a lot of comparisons to Mike Tyson, and absolutely so. I think at the minute they're on that same ride where anything that's in front of them, they smash, and the world's getting to know him.
Because Dave Allen said the other day, he was very different, wasn't he, Spence? He was sort of saying, I don't know if you saw this phrase.
Yeah, I did,
he was saying, put him in for a world title shot. He's miles off. He hasn't fought at that level. He hasn't done this. He hasn't done that. You're not in that camp, are you?
You've got to look at who the world champions are at the minute. Yeah. So we look at that. I mean, I can understand what Dave is saying in a way, but when I look out there at the world champions, don't get me wrong, Usyk is a fantastic fighter. But what I see of Moses and what I've seen so far, obviously there is levels to go through. But people keep saying, "Well, he's not been hit yet." Well, that's his job. Yeah. That's his job. I mean, and he will get hit. It's not like he hasn't been hit in the gym. Of course, he's been hit before. You know, it's not like he's never took a shot. So I think he is ready. And you know what? Why not chuck the young kid into let's see if he's ready.
What do you boys think Dillian's in for? Is he? I mean,
he's in for a tough night. That's for sure. Oh, absolutely. Look, I think that Dillian Whyte's timing in this game, you know, and Dillian Whyte, and you're talking about the speed there and the youth and, you know, the momentum and all that is all with the active, in-form Moses Itauma. Forget his age and whatnot. This kid is improving at a rapid rate and he is the future star of the heavyweight division. And I think that Dillian Whyte his best days are definitely gone, and I think this is perfect timing for Itauma. This fight could be over in 3 or 4 rounds.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do you think he's going to blast him out of there?
Yeah, I think it goes early. I think I don't know Moses personally. I've spoke to him a few times, but I think he's definitely a man for the occasion. And I do think, with him being a headliner, I hope he doesn't get too excited and not do his usual job. But I think if he wanted to make a statement, and I think he's well capable of doing that.
Derek's not obviously going to be fighting Moses Itauma, but he's got his eyes set on Joseph Parker. Let's listen to what Derek said on that fight.
Parker's been given the green light to defend his WBO interim heavyweight title against you in a trilogy clash we're hearing. I know you can't reveal that tonight, Derek, and...
Oh, no. Listen, 100%. But I am the IBF mandatory, basically.
Yeah.
I secured my position. I had Nicole go to New York to get my position right, and then the IBF president said, "You know what, Derek, your position is secure. Do not worry about it." So, listen, I'll be happy if Usyk comes out or whoever wins, Usyk or Daniel, to drop the WBO and the IBF, and then me and Joseph will tear up each other for it.
Do you think there's a possibility that fight can materialise, Spence?
Yeah, definitely. I think it could materialise, and I think that I know what Derek's thinking is. Derek's waiting for this undisputed to happen, those titles to fragment. He's the mandatory, and whoever that is. And Derek's looking at this going, hold on a minute, Joseph's the WBO interim, so I could box Joseph if that fight does happen for the IBF and WBO if that happens. So Derek's a smart kid. He knows what he's doing. He's waiting his time. He wants that world title shot ultimately. But Joseph Parker could be that guy.
You've, again, sparred with Joseph Parker. Yeah. What do you think of him? I'm assuming you like him as a fighter, and how highly do you rate him? Because we've all discussed Joseph Parker over the years. I remember going to watch Joseph Parker fight Anthony Joshua, thought he was going to bring the fight. The referee didn't help, but I was disappointed. Yeah. But we've seen this change in Joe Parker since he's cooked up with Andy Lee. Yeah. You're up close and personal with it.
I think he's a bit like a fine wine. He's just got better and better with age. And I think with age comes maturity. From what I can see from him, I think we're similar ages, me and Joe, but he's one of them people that you can look up to now. He's got some great advice. He had some great advice for me, especially after my defeat, talking about coming back. But what I will say again is, and what I can tell you, the same similarities between him and Usyk, ultimate professionals now. Not professionals in for 8 weeks, a professional lifestyle all year round. You know what? Whilst the boxing, because they might not have that many years left, he's giving it 100%.
Because obviously we went to see him when he fought Joe Joyce. Now, obviously, there's a backstory to the fact that Joe Parker hit Joe Joyce of everything, couldn't get him out of there, and then Joe Joyce knocked him out. We now know that there was an inherent injury behind that, or an illness. He wasn't very well. And then we saw him go fight Jack Massey, didn't we? We saw him fight a few other people, built his reputation back up again. And Deontay Wilder and Zhang were the caveats back to the Joe Parker that we've now got. We can't cap the Bacoli fight, can we? No, as a fight, with all due respect to it. I mean, if Derek was to go in with Joe Parker, which is a possibility for the reasons that you've laid out, what would you think that fight outcome would likely be?
Joseph Parker would start the overwhelming favourite going into that fight. Derek's having a great run himself. They were 2 good fights that him and Parker had, but the second fight was more conclusive than the first one with Derek Chisora. And you go to Joseph Parker, would have to start an overwhelming favourite going into that one. The momentum's all with him, and I think he's coming off the better victories. Derek's done really well, but he's coming off the better victories. But Derek's that type of guy that likes that. Yep. He's that type of character that'll go, let me be the underdog, let me go in there. Derek's in fine form himself at the moment.
Well, it'll be fascinating to see, because it'll be some finish, wouldn't it? If Derek Chisora were able to finish his career by winning a world title, what would happen? He wouldn't finish, would he? But what an opportunity if it does manifest itself. We'll wait and see.